No. You rise to the occasion. Experience comes with age, and I've been hearing a lot about age, you know.
We are now, and I finally get to check that off my list, and I knew this was going to be a big fight. The build-up for this is huge. The press conferences are entertaining. It's a spectacle.
With only 17 days remaining before Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul finally meet in the ring, the pressure around this matchup is getting stronger by the minute. Both fighters are locked into the most intense phase of their camps, where every punch, every round, and every drop of sweat could make the difference on fight night. Joshua is drilling his power shots, tightening his timing, and moving with sharper, cleaner footwork as he prepares for a dominant performance. On the other side, Jake is pushing his body to the edge with brutal conditioning sessions.
And I have nothing but love for him, but I'm going to knock him out respectfully, and you know, we can hug and kiss afterwards, specifically kiss.
Anthony Joshua's training camp for the Jake Paul fight is already running at full intensity, and this time it comes with a major change. Joshua has completely switched his training setup, something he hasn't done in years. After suffering that knockout loss in September 2024 and undergoing elbow surgery right after, this camp isn't just preparation. It's rehabilitation, rebuilding, and redemption all at once. Every drill matters more now because he's trying to sharpen every part of his game again. Reports say he's focusing heavily on conditioning, tightening his technique, improving his footwork, and polishing his ring IQ, while working closely with coaches who previously trained Alexander Usyk. The goal is simple: walk into the fight faster, smarter, and more confident than he has in a long time. Joshua himself has admitted that switching camps has been a huge adjustment. Anthony Joshua starts his mornings in the coldest way possible, stepping straight into intense ice baths to toughen his body and speed up his recovery during camp. The freezing shock isn't just for show. It reduces inflammation, keeps his muscles fresher for longer sessions, and forces his mind to stay sharp under pressure. Joshua believes these cold therapy routines help lock in his focus and prepare him mentally for the heavy workload that follows later in the day. It's a disciplined habit that shows how seriously he's approaching this fight, doing everything he can to stay strong, recover fast, and walk into the ring fully prepared for the challenge ahead. Anthony Joshua trains in an environment built on discipline, precision, and constant improvement, and it shows in every session. Surrounded by coaches who specialize in clean technique and smart strategy, he approaches each drill with clear purpose. His focus is on tightening his explosive combinations while building a defensive system that reacts instantly, without hesitation. Every movement is reviewed, every mistake corrected, and nothing is left to chance. His coaches pay close attention to his rhythm, his foot placement, and the way he mixes up his punches, pushing him to break old habits and develop sharper ones. People watching from ringside can see how seriously he takes every adjustment. Instead of depending only on his natural power, he's working to improve his understanding of distance, timing, angles, and how to create openings. His steps become more controlled.
Simon, I think he's at that stage of his career where he's trying to rediscover a little bit of that confidence. He's gone to Alexander Usyk, where we're hearing reports he's out there training with Usyk and the team, trying to pick up something, trying to rediscover something.
That's very strange, Paul, isn't it?
It is, but it's not unheard of. I've heard of a lot of fighters doing that. You see fighters, obviously, it's the old Rocky movies years ago, but you see a fighter losing to someone, all of a sudden they go in the camp and they start training and doing little bits together and become friends or whatever else. I think it'll do Joshua no harm travelling, but as you say, he's a little bit long in the tooth and he's a bit on the back nine rather than the front nine, where that experience would really come into play. But I'm just looking at his record here. He obviously after the Usyk fight, he'd come back and he had 3 fights and then the Ngannou demolition
Well,
job.
yeah, Jermaine Franklin, he had Robert Helene, he had Otto Wallin, and he smashed Ngannou, which everyone went hallelujah for, right?
Yeah, but he's obviously not in like the box rec rankings to see where he is. But the Dubois fight is a fight where what you've just said then, Spencer, like match him right. I felt he was match right with Dubois. That's just my opinion.
Just
obviously I was wrong on that and I was proved wrong, but I felt like Joshua would have and should have came through that, but he obviously didn't. So therefore, it's back to the drawing board, and where do you go from there? What do you do from there? Does he keep the same team around him? Does he go and find someone new and try and adapt and add to his repertoire already? And this move at Usyk, I don't know what it'll be, but if he's fighting before Christmas, then he needs to get in shape quick because there's only 8 weeks to go, let's say.
Well, my understanding, he's in camp, he's in shape, and just looking to getting out and get back to winning ways is my understanding. That's why they're talking about 8-rounders.
Yeah.
He wants to sort of go under the radar a little bit, and it's difficult for someone like Anthony Joshua because he's such
Very
a
much so.
commercial commodity.
He's always been in shape all the time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He always will be in shape. He's never, ever not been...
But it's not about his
dedicated.
physical shape, is it? No one's ever questioned his physical state. Zach, when I was talking about Anthony Joshua, and I know that the president of his fan club is here in Spencer, but I talked about the PTSD issue post various fights, whether it be the Alexander Usyk or the Daniel Dubois situation. But prior to Daniel Dubois, I always maintained that I felt that despite the performance against Jermaine Franklin, despite the performance against Robert Helenius, which had been blasted out by Deontay Wilder, and we've seen...
Eddie Hearn approaches this fight with a clear understanding of what's truly at stake, because he knows Joshua's entire career direction could shift based on this one result. This isn't just another payday or a simple rivalry match. For Joshua, a win could revive everything he's been working toward, while a loss would force difficult questions about what comes next and whether continuing at the highest level would even make sense. Hearn doesn't sugarcoat any of this, and that honesty shows how serious the situation is. But even with all that pressure, Hearn's belief in Joshua hasn't wavered. He's seen the dedication, the discipline, and the uncomfortable work Joshua has put himself through during the past few months. From conditioning drills to intense sparring sessions.
Record saying that you and AJ must retire if Jake Paul wins on December 19th. Stand by that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I suppose so. Shit, yeah. Look, I don't see a world where Jake Paul wins this fight. I know that boxing's boxing. I mean, what was it? Roy Jones came out this morning and said Jake Paul can win this fight.
Teddy Atlas as well.
Teddy Atlas? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, now I'm a bit worried. I won't retire. AJ should retire if he loses, no. No, I see AJ winning this fight with ease, comprehensively, destructively, violently, and I don't see a world where Jake Paul is competitive in the fight, let alone win the fight. But luckily, AJ's not preparing in a way that he just thinks it's a joke. He's preparing for Jake Paul like he's a world title contender. Yes, it's been a little bit of a shorter camp. Yes, we've got to make weight this time around, but it doesn't matter. We should just slide through this guy and bash him up and beat him up, and we should do it early doors.
Just lastly, you said as well that you told Nikisa that he was weighing 290 when you were negotiating. What impact did that have? Did you feel like they would have gone even lower if they knew he was weighing 265?
No, I mean, I don't think that when you're negotiating on a weight, there's not one promoter in the world that would tell the truth about what the weight of the fighter was, and Nikisa knows that anyway. So it wasn't like we were being clever, but they wanted him to come to 240. And it's just, don't forget, AJ's never made weight before. So all of a sudden, he'd been in camp for, 2 or 3 weeks. And he's probably sitting at, 260, 265. And it's like, you've got to make 245.
A major reason Joshua's confidence remains steady is the caliber of sparring partners he's been working with throughout this camp. Footage from a gym shows him standing toe-to-toe with top-tier heavyweights, each bringing a different kind of danger and forcing him to sharpen specific areas of his game. These aren't routine sparring rounds. They're demanding sessions designed to push him right to the edge. Jared Anderson brings explosive power and non-stop pressure, making every round a defensive test for Joshua. Anderson punishes hesitation, attacks openings instantly, and forces Joshua to react with speed and discipline. Sparring with someone that aggressive keeps Joshua alert and conditioned from the first bell to the last second of each round. Then there's Frank Sanchez, who challenges Joshua in a completely different way. Sanchez moves with smooth footwork, slips punches effortlessly, and maintains perfect balance, pushing Joshua to think more strategically. Against Sanchez, Joshua must adjust angles, control distance, and make smarter decisions in real time. It's not enough to hit hard. He has to read, react, and outsmart. These sessions go far beyond physical toughness. They simulate the chaos of elite competition. And
Jake Paul is being dwarfed by these way bigger heavyweights like Jared Anderson, Frank Sanchez, and Lawrence Okolie. Okolie is like 6'4.5", 6'5", and these guys are like 6'3", 6'4", probably. So now Jake Paul is the one that's smaller. So first of all, I will give credit to Jake Paul. Clearly, he's a person who is taking his career seriously. These are quality sparring. I mean, a real boxer, because people say he's not a real boxer, but a real boxer would be using the same guys in their sparring camp. In fact, I just told you Joshua used Lawrence Okolie. I don't know if he sparred with Anderson or Frank Sanchez, but these are all regular ranked heavyweights. So credit to Jake Paul for that. And, I mean, he's going to need it. Joshua is a different breed to, like, you know, a Mike Perry when it comes to boxing. Different frame, different size. In case you didn't believe me, right? Jake Paul, this is what MVP Promotions posted. So Jake Paul top sparring, right? Heavyweights. And here's some pictures of Joshua with Lawrence Okolie. And again, Joshua, a big dude, but you see Lawrence Okolie, and he probably was cruiserweight back then. I mean, I don't know exactly when this picture was taken, but he's only like an inch shorter than Anthony Joshua. And now, as he's moved up to the full heavyweight, he has filled out more. You see, he looks even bigger than when he was a cruiserweight. Now, I got to research it, but I want to say I thought Lawrence Okolie...
Tony Jeffries views Jake Paul's rise through the eyes of someone who has seen his progress step by step. He remembers when Jake first entered boxing with very limited skill and mostly raw enthusiasm. Yet over the years, Jake began taking the sport seriously enough to start closing that gap. Jeffries points out how Jake gradually committed himself to learning real fundamentals, putting in the hours most people don't see. According to him, Jake's punch mechanics have improved, his understanding of distance has become sharper, and his overall discipline in training now looks far more like that of a true professional. Jeffries doesn't claim Jake is elite, but he does recognize the steady growth that has brought him to this stage.
They get older. Now, a problem for Anthony Joshua is his activity. He's only fought twice in 2 years, and one of them, he got knocked out off Daniel Dubois. That was his last fight, and a lot of people say you can only judge a fighter's quality from their last fight. And then the fight before that was a win, but it was a win against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, if you know, he was the UFC heavyweight who's not a real boxer, and he only had one fight before that boxing fight, what he lost as well. So that's his activity in boxing. Now, Jake Paul, on the other hand, looking at his box rec, he's had 6 fights since 2023. And one of them was against Mike Tyson. But we all seen what happened in that fight. Mike Tyson was well past his prime. Where Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, is, well, I'm not going to say he's coming into his prime because he had some great wins earlier on in his career before he lost to Usyk twice. And by the way, when he did lose to Usyk, the last one was a split decision. It was a pretty close fight. So now this fight is matched. And I just want to look at the tail of the tape. Now, looking at the age difference, we've got 28 years old compared to 36 years old. So I guess the advantage there goes a little bit towards Jake Paul. 28-year-old is better than a 36-year-old. But that being said, we've got talking about experience and everything else, what comes with being 36 years old at Anthony Joshua's level. And then, like I mentioned, the heavyweights kind of seem to prime a little bit older. Now, come down to the height and the weight. This is the big one. 6'1" versus 6'6". 200 pounds versus 252 pounds. We got a 252 pounder in Anthony Joshua. The reach advantage is a lot, which we would expect. Amateur fights, we can see that Jake's only had one, where AJ's had 43, but 43 of them are including at the highest level, Olympic level. And yes, he won the Olympic bloody gold medal, if I don't need to remind you. Then the pro record, Jake Paul has had 13 fights, lost 1. AJ has had 28 fights, and he's lost 4 with 25 KOs. And the one person that Jake Paul lost to was Tommy Fury. Now, can we compare Tommy Fury with Anthony Joshua? Not at all. It's like night and day. So now I'm going to talk about the rules of this fight, and I'll give you my prediction, which is going to shock a lot of people after this. So, what are the rules? The bout will take place at a heavyweight, obviously. It's going to be 8 3-minute rounds. You might think, well, that's better for Jake Paul, and I'm thinking, not really. It's better for Anthony Joshua because he's just going to go all out for them 8 3-minute rounds. And imagine that, Anthony Joshua blasting at you, 6'6", whatever he is, 250 pounds, throwing big bombs at you. Anyway, both fighters will be using 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. Why have they got that? It says both fighters will be wearing 10-ounce gloves for the duration of the contest. What do you expect? Them to take them off halfway through and switch?
When you compare their ages, Jake Paul is 28 while Anthony Joshua is 36. And on paper, that does give Jake a small advantage. Being younger usually means fresher reflexes, quicker recovery, and a bit more physical sharpness. But age isn't everything. With Joshua, those extra years come with elite-level experience, years of championship pressure, and the kind of ring maturity that a younger fighter simply can't replicate. What Jake gains in youth, Joshua balances with knowledge and fight IQ that only comes from a long career at the top. But the real difference appears when you compare their size. Jake stands around 6 feet 1 inch and weighs roughly 200 pounds. Joshua is a massive 6 feet 6 inches heavyweight, walking into camp at about 252 pounds. The height difference is huge. The weight gap is even bigger, and the reach advantage heavily favors Joshua.
Excuse me. My first thoughts was this guy's crazy. Not gonna lie. But I get it. Coming from a guy who's not a true traditional boxer, and to be able to have a position where he can fight a former unified world champion, former Olympic gold medalist, and to do it on such a stage where Anthony Joshua was a superstar as well. I mean, like, he sold out the O2, twice.
Absolutely.
I think. So, I think Jake is setting himself up for, a huge spectacle, and which is, kind of smart. If you're going to go big, why not go to the highest of the mountain? Why not? And I get it. That's what you call business right there. And I've seen a lot of guys calling them out, from like Gabe to, other guys who are
Berlanga.
boxers. Yeah, like guys who actually beat him. But why would he settle for those guys when he could fight Anthony Joshua? So I think that's, I think that's smart. I think that's super smart.
Smart is one thing. What do you think happens in the ring, though, champ?
I think he gets hurt for sure. I think he gets obliterated. Something close to like Francis Ngannou. I think something like that happens, and it's going to be bad for him. But there will be a lot of.
Chael Sonnen looks at this matchup with his usual blunt honesty, questioning whether Jake Paul is showing fearless ambition or stepping into something that simply doesn't make sense. He respects Jake for taking on opponents many thought he would avoid, and he acknowledges the courage it takes to accept a challenge this big. But at the same time, Sonnen struggles to understand the logic behind choosing a fighter with Joshua's size, power, and proven knockout history. He explains that courage can become a weakness when the preparation doesn't match the danger in front of you. There's a difference between taking a bold risk and taking a blind one, especially in a sport where one clean punch can end everything in an instant. Sonnen's concern isn't just about Jake losing. It's about whether he fully understands what stepping in with someone like Anthony Joshua really means.
The Francis Ngannou performance. What if Jake makes it 5 rounds, 6 rounds? What if Jake made it to the distance? What if Jake won a round? Now, it's very hard to believe. It's very hard to imagine. I think it's the big struggle with this fight. I cannot, off the top of my head, produce a fight for you in any form of unarmed combat that drew, that was exciting, where the audience did not have a reasonable expectation, an expectation to some degree that, well, if he does this or that, there is a way for this guy to win. And that's usually pretty easy to do because nobody knows anything about fighting. Nobody watching this right now, none of you, my millions of viewers, not one of you has ever boxed. Not one of you knows someone in the family. Well, my dad was a boxer. My uncle was a boxer. No, you don't. Not only are you not a boxer, you don't even know of a boxer. Now, I only share that because when I come out and say nobody knows what they're talking about when they're talking about boxing, like, it's not meant to be an insult. You don't know anything about boxing. It was never taught to you. None of you in recess boxed. None of your junior highs, your high schools, your colleges, your community colleges offered boxing. Your hometown didn't have a boxing gym. Now really think about that. Because as much as you love the sport and as much as you think that you understand it, not only do you not understand it, you can't even have a conversation with other people who do because they don't understand it. So what is a win? I think that time counts. I think that time is a very big deal. You're in that little bitty ring, and I know a guy can run backwards, but running backwards is not illegal in boxing. It is in wrestling.
Angelo and Josh steer the discussion back to the basics of boxing, highlighting that the sport isn't just about size or strength. It's built on years of disciplined training, experience against top-level opponents, and constant refinement of technique. From their perspective, Jake Paul is still in a growth phase, learning the ropes and developing his skills, while fighters like Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder exist in a completely different league. These are athletes defined by raw knockout power, precise timing, and decades of competing at the highest levels. They point out that Joshua isn't just a fighter. He's a kind of presence in the ring that can instantly shift the dynamics of the fight. Even when an opponent seems in control, a perfectly timed punch or a sudden burst of explosive strength.
I just don't think that he could compete at the highest level. And I don't think he beat the top 5, top 6 guys. But that in that weight class is where he'd be at, like say 180, 188 or 189, somewhere around there is where he'd probably compete. There's not a lot of talent there though. So he might be pretty good in those weight classes. Him competing in the heavyweight division against like Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or anybody else, no. He gets annihilated. I'm very surprised he signed this fight.
I was shocked he signed this fight. I texted my buddy Bo because Bo follows boxing really well, and I texted him. I was like, dude, we might see a death. And he said the same thing. He's like, I cannot believe he agreed to that fight. But the numbers, the numbers that are, nobody knows the true payouts. They're saying it's around $200 million that they're splitting evenly. So they're getting about $100 million each. He said that it was $267 million. So I don't know who you believe or don't believe, or it could be they're splitting 200 and the 67 delta, they had to pay DAZN because Anthony Joshua has a contract with DAZN. And this fight's going to be on Netflix. DAZN.
It's DAZN.
So they, which makes, how the hell?
Please stop saying DAZN, okay? That's like Saint Benoit, okay?
Where's the O in DAZN?